Chapter 6. Types of legislation. Proposals for legislation are in the form of bills or resolutions. Hundreds of measures are introduced each session, relating to many subjects. A bill may propose to create new law, amend or repeal existing law, or propose to amend the Constitution of Kentucky. Bills. The Constitution places many restrictions on the substance of legislation. For example, no bill may relate to more than one subject, which shall be expressed in the title. No local or special law may be enacted on certain enumerated subjects or in any case where a general law may be made applicable. All bills raising revenue must originate in the House of Representatives. Other restrictions are found throughout the Constitution.
Resolutions. Resolutions deal with subordinate objects of legislation and are of three kinds. Simple resolutions concern the affairs of one chamber only and require action only by that chamber. They are used to regulate procedure and to express requests or sentiments. Concurrent resolutions must be approved by both chambers. Concurrent resolutions deal with legislative organization and are used to transmit messages to other branches of government or express opinions of the General Assembly. Any proposal for a research study to be undertaken by the Legislative Research Commission is generally in the form of a concurrent resolution. Joint resolutions have the effect of law and are treated as bills. They are used to ratify U.S. constitutional amendments and for matters of temporary legislation not to be included as part of the Kentucky Revised Statutes. Selection of the proper type of resolution is important. Citations. Citations are used to extend the commendations, condolences, or congratulations of the General Assembly to a person, or to recognize a particular event or occasion.
Form of bills. The form of bills is regulated by the Constitution and by general considerations of custom and convenience. The form and style of bills and resolutions are discussed in detail, with examples, in the Legislative Research Commission's Bill Drafting Manual. Every bill shall have a title, which sets forth the subject of the bill in broad and general terms, and must have an enacting clause. The enacting clause is the same for all bills, be it enacted by the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The body of the bill, which follows the title and enacting clause, may contain any or all of the following sections, preferably in the order listed here. 1. Definitions of special or technical words. 2. Basic provisions, which include main provisions, subordinate provisions, procedural provisions, details of administration. 3. Penalties or sanctions. 4. Repeal of conflicting statutes. 5. Appropriations. 6. Temporary or transitional provisions. 7. A short title for popular reference. 8. Emergency or effective date clause.
Origin of bills. All bills and resolutions are introduced by legislators, but the idea behind the measure may actually originate in a variety of places. A member interested in a proposed measure may request the Deputy Director for Committee and Staff Coordination of the Legislative Research Commission to have a bill drafted. Interest groups, professional organizations, or constituents back home may ask a legislator to introduce a bill for them. Many important measures originate in the executive branch of state government. These are known as executive bills and may be written in the governor's office or by a state agency. Some bills result from studies undertaken by the Legislative Research Commission at the direction of the General Assembly or from action and recommendation by the Commission's interim joint committees. Some would enact laws drafted by the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws. All bills, however, must be signed by a senator or representative, who takes responsibility for them. All bills, whether executive or otherwise, are prepared in final form by the appropriate LRC staff drafter and entered into the LRC computer system prior to introduction. Appropriations. The Governor, Chief Justice, and the Legislative Research Commission recommend biennial budgets for agencies of their respective branches to the General Assembly. These budget plans are accompanied by appropriations bills that authorize expenditures for services and operations of state government. Appropriations bills are referred to the Appropriations and Revenue Committee in each chamber and follow the course of any other bill. Extensive hearings are held. The bills may be amended or rewritten entirely as they proceed through the legislative process.
Proposed constitutional amendments. The General Assembly may propose amendments to the Constitution of Kentucky, but no more than 4 such proposals may be placed on the ballot at one time. Proposed amendments are enacted as bills, but do not go to the governor for approval. The question of amending the Constitution is then submitted to the voters at the next election, at which members of the House of Representatives are chosen.
Chapter 7. Enacting a law. The steps by which a bill becomes a law are prescribed by the Constitution of Kentucky, the rules, and by custom. The lawmaking process may seem lengthy and complicated, but it is carefully designed to prevent hasty or unwise legislation. The Constitution specifies the following concerning enactment of legislation. No bill shall be considered for final passage unless the same has been reported by a committee and printed for the use of the members. Every bill shall be read at length on 3 different days in each House, but the second and third readings may be dispensed with by a majority of all the members elected to the House in which the bill is pending. No bill shall become a law unless, on its final passage, it receives the votes of at least 2/5 of the members elected to each House, and a majority of the members voting, the vote to be taken by yeas and nays and entered in the journal.
Introduction of bills and resolutions. Bills and resolutions are introduced by filing signed copies with the Clerk of the House of Introduction. 5 signed copies of Senate bills and 4 signed copies of House bills must be filed, the original and 3 copies. Senators and representatives may introduce an unlimited number of bills and resolutions at any extraordinary or regular session. However, during a regular session in an even-numbered year, under the rules of each chamber, they may not offer measures for introduction during the last 20 legislative days in the Senate or the last 22 legislative days in the House. In a regular session in an odd-numbered year, no bill or resolution having the force of law may be introduced after the 13th legislative day in the Senate or the 14th legislative day in the House. No bill or resolution is acceptable for introduction if it does not bear the appropriate bill drafting code number of the Legislative Research Commission, which it receives when processed through the Commission's data processing system. Of the signed copies presented to the clerk, 1 copy is retained as the official copy of the measure on its journey through the legislative process, 1 copy is for the use of legislative committees, and 1 copy is returned to the Legislative Research Commission. The introduced bill is posted to the web for public viewing. The clerk numbers bills and resolutions in the order received, and each is identified by this assigned number throughout its history. When the order of business introduction of new bills and resolutions is reached, each measure so presented is read by its title and sponsor. This reading before the full House constitutes official introduction. The Legislative Research Commission prints each introduced bill and resolution, and these printed copies are placed in binders in the legislative office areas. In addition, the bills and pending amendments scheduled for consideration in the orders of the day each day can be accessed on the computers on the members' desks in each chamber. Additional copies of printed bills are available to the members in the Senate and House bill rooms. The Senate bill room is located off the Senate floor, and the House bill room is off the House balcony. Simple and concurrent resolutions are typically referred to a committee for consideration. Upon favorable committee report, they may be adopted without readings. The House may adopt simple or concurrent resolutions upon introduction under a suspension of the rules. Concurrent resolutions must receive the approval of both chambers in order to be successful. Joint resolutions must take the same course as a bill.
Reference to committee. Immediately upon introduction, bills and resolutions are referred to the Committee on Committees for reference to the proper standing committee. All bills and resolutions having the force of law must be referred to a committee not later than 5 legislative days after introduction in the House or Senate. The rules specify the jurisdiction of each of the standing committees in each House. Reports of committees. After a committee considers a bill, it may report it back to the House or decide it does not merit further consideration. A committee may report a bill favorably, favorably with amendments, favorably by way of committee substitute, unfavorably in the House, or, in the Senate, without expression of opinion. If the committee fails to report a bill within a reasonable time, the bill may be called up by any member with the concurrence of a majority of members elected. In calling up any such bill, a representative must have the signed concurrence of 25 colleagues on a discharge petition, filed at least 24 hours in advance of the effort. Senators filing these petitions are not required to obtain co-signers. First and second readings. If the bill is reported favorably, it is given its first reading by the clerk and placed on the calendar for the next succeeding legislative day. The calendar is a list of bills entitled to a second reading, and bills are placed on it in the order in which they are reported from committee. If a bill is reported unfavorably or without expression, or is simply held in committee, a majority of the members elected may vote to read it into the calendar or vote to take it from the committee and so read it as if it had been reported favorably. Taking a bill from committee or overriding an unfavorable report seldom occurs. A bill usually receives its second reading, by title only, the day after first reading. It then goes to the Rules Committee for the purpose of posting it on the orders of the day for final passage. Bills on the orders of the day are ready for a third reading, then debate, amendment, recommitment, approval, or defeat. A bill may be recommitted or amended at any time before its passage and may be recommitted by the Rules Committee on one occasion. Bills retain their readings, even if recommitted.
Consent calendar. The rules of the Senate authorize the use of a consent calendar and a consent orders of the day. If the consent procedure outlined in the rules is fully used, then standing committees may, when reporting bills favorably without a dissenting vote, recommend their placement in the consent calendar. The Rules Committee then may post bills from the consent calendar to the consent orders of the day. When the consent orders of the day are called, all members present are presumed to vote aye. Members may record their nay or pass votes on any consent measure prior to call of the consent orders of the day. Third reading and passage. Bills are called from the orders of the day in the order in which they are posted by the Rules Committee. A bill may be called out of order by unanimous consent, on motion approved by a majority voting to post the bill the next day, or by making it a special order for a stated time. The majority floor leader makes any motion to take a bill from the orders of the day, read it for the third time by title only, and place the bill upon its passage. The majority floor leader may relinquish the floor for this purpose to the sponsor or committee chair. The clerk reads the bill by title and it is ready for debate, amendment, and vote. The sponsor of the bill usually takes the floor to explain the measure. Opponents and proponents then debate the bill. The majority of measures are non-controversial and are not debated at length on the floor. Debate on occasion may be terminated by moving the previous question, after which the proponents and opponents have 10 minutes to complete their arguments. The roll is then called on final passage of the bill. If the title of a bill needs perfecting, it is by title amendment after the bill is passed.
Clincher motion. Final action on passage in the House is in the form of a clincher motion. A member from the prevailing side moves that the vote by which the bill was passed, or defeated, be reconsidered and that the motion to reconsider be laid on the table. Adoption of this motion prevents reconsideration of the vote on final passage unless ordered by a majority of members elected. Engrossment. Every bill and joint resolution that passes its House of Origin is engrossed by the clerk. Engrossment means reprinting the bill with any amendments included and endorsing the date of passage on the bill. The clerk then delivers the bill to the other house, in open session, announces that it has passed the first house, and requests concurrence in the measure. Second chamber. The bill then follows an identical course of action in the second house. It is reprinted as a General Assembly bill but keeps its original number. The first reading in the second house may occur on the same day as passage in the first house. The second chamber may reject a bill or may pass it with or without amendments. If the bill is amended, it is returned to the first house for concurrence. If the first house refuses to concur in the amendment, the bill goes back to the second house with the request that it recede from its position. If a deadlock results, a conference committee, composed of members of both houses, may be appointed to reconcile the differences. The conference committee reports back to both houses, which may vote to accept or reject, but not amend, its report. A conference committee may consider only those amendments at issue. If the conference committee fails to reach an agreement, a free conference committee may be appointed that may make broad changes to the bill in question and file its report in both chambers for acceptance or rejection.
Enrollment. After a bill has passed both houses, it is returned to the house in which it was introduced and given to the enrolling clerk to be enrolled. This process consists of comparing the engrossed bill with the exact form of the original as passed. A bill amended in the second chamber is engrossed by the chief clerk of the House of Origin. Before delivery to the enrolling clerk, the bill is transmitted to the Legislative Research Commission for preparation of the final, engrossed copy. The enrolling clerk then checks the original bill, as attested by the chief clerk, against the engrossed copy delivered from the Legislative Research Commission. The Committee on Enrollment and the enrolling clerk compare the engrossed copy of the bill with the original copy, together with any amendments, and certify that the bill is in the exact form as passed. The Committee on Enrollment reports to the House that the bill is correctly engrossed and ready for the presiding officer's signature. The committee may report at any time except during a roll call. Upon report of the Committee on Enrollment, the presiding officer announces to the body the intention to sign the bill and proceeds to sign it in open session. The clerk of the House in which the bill originated next transmits the original and engrossed copies of the bill to the chief clerk of the other chamber. The bill is there enrolled, signed, and returned to the House of Origin. The chief clerk of the first house delivers the bill to the governor, taking a receipt for delivery. Action by the governor. The governor may sign a bill or take no action. If the governor takes no action on a measure within 10 days, excluding Sundays, after receiving it, the bill becomes a law without signature. In addition, the governor may veto a bill, or any line item in an appropriation bill. A bill vetoed by the governor is returned to the Chamber of Origin with a statement of the grounds for the veto. It may be passed, despite the veto, by a majority of members elected to each chamber.